And welcome, sports fans, to today's Sports Roundtable. And it's the New Year's edition of the Sports Roundtable right here on Channel 21 on your New Wave cable, as well as YHCTV.com and SemoSportsZone.com. Glad you joined us for the first roundtable of 2016. Happy New Year, everyone. Hopefully, everyone had a safe and enjoyable holidays, and looking forward to a great 2016. And we're right smack and dab in the middle of high school basketball season. We're just coming off Christmas tournaments here from the area, so it's going to be an exciting second half of the season, even though we're not really at the midway point of the season, but certainly heading into 2016. Very exciting time coming off these Christmas tournaments. They were great here across the board here in Southeast Missouri, which we'll get into in just a moment. And we'll also have highlights of that Bloomfield Christmas Tournament final between Kennett and Dexter from last week. A great tournament throughout, which we'll talk more about. But glad you joined us right here for the New Year's edition of the Sports Roundtable right here on YHCTV. And let's take a look at those Christmas tournaments that took place last week and how they wrapped up, starting with the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament here just up the way in Bloomfield. And we brought all 26 games to you live right here on Channel 21 and also at SemoSportsZone.com. And taking a look at that final, that was Kennett and Dexter. In that final, 55-50. Kennett defeated Dexter, and a great game throughout between those two teams. Kennett come out on top in the end. We'll have a highlight in just a moment of that game, but a great game between there with Kennett and Dexter, with Kennett winning its fifth Bloomfield Christmas Tournament title in 7 years. And what a run it's been for Kennett over those 7 years. They had a chance to run the table. They're 7 straight, but just a few, I guess you would say, upsets along the way. Holcomb just a few years back, and Bernie last year. They could have put together quite a run, similar to what Dexter did there in the 2000s, basically a decade ago, a little over a decade ago. But Kennett's made a great run in this tournament, winning their fifth title in 7 years, and actually tie Dexter for all time Bloomfield Christmas Tournament titles. So Dexter and Kennett are tied for the most titles. I believe it's 8, if I'm not mistaken, there with that Christmas tournament. And Kennett going for the most all-time next year. So Dexter will have something to fight for next year to hold off Kennett. So, but a great final. We'll get to that highlight. We don't have that queued up yet, but we'll get to that highlight in just a moment. A great game there in that final from the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. And the third place game. Take a look at the third place game. It was Saxony Lutheran, the 6th seed Saxony Lutheran Crusaders over the 5th seeded Malden Green Wave, 58-53. And Saxony Lutheran, kind of the new team on the block there with the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. I believe this is the second or third year. It might be the third year that they are in the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. And they've put together quite a team this year. They've got great length. It seems like they start 3 or 4 players 6'3" or better, and got quite a team that really showed out in the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. Lost to Kennett in that semifinal round, but did advance and won third place in that Bloomfield Christmas Tournament last week. So that's a team to look out for going forward, especially in Class 3. And Malden had a good tournament, just come up a bit short in that third place game, but led most of that game and just come up a bit short there in the end. But Malden had a fine tournament, and they'll be forced to be reckoned with, especially in that Boudreaux Conference this year. And take a look at the fifth place game. The fifth place game, Bloomfield defeated South Pemiscot. Bloomfield defeated South Pemiscot 47-40. Bloomfield, the top seed in that tournament, certainly wanted to win that tournament, being the top seed in their own tournament, but just come up a bit short in that quarterfinal with Dexter. Quite a game there between Bloomfield and Dexter in that quarterfinal, and Bloomfield went to the fifth place bracket. Really had no problem through that fifth place bracket and defeating South Pemiscot 47-40 in that fifth place contest. So Bloomfield Wildcats had a great tournament, 3-1 in that through that tournament, and looking good going forward. Just come up a bit short to those Dexter Bearcats. It's a big rivalry between those two schools, and should be a great matchup once again later in the year in that Stoddard County Conference. South Pemiscot, that was kind of my team to go and win it. They come away with 6th place in that tournament, and just didn't play their best ball in that tournament. I don't know if playing that Clarkton Holiday tournament before, I don't know if that really had any effect on their Bloomfield Christmas tournament bid, but just didn't play their best ball. I didn't think of what we've seen at the first of the year. I know playing 4 games in 4 days, you might not be playing your best ball in some of those games, but didn't play their best ball and come away with 6th place in that tournament. But boy, I tell you, it's a scary team this year in South Pemiscot. They've pretty much got. They really don't have a true weakness. They've got great guard play with Mike Smith, Dorian Jones, and Kevin Burton, and some big inside presence with Jabari Heron and Stephen Wilburn. They get some nice athleticism, and the freshman Dominique Hardiman made the all-tournament team as a freshman. Had a great tournament as well, and they play good defense. They don't really turn the ball over. You got a good team there at South Pemiscot. So they're playing out of Class 2, also Bloomfield. And there's quite a few good Class 2 teams this year. It's going to be very interesting to see who makes it out of Class 2 here in Southeast Missouri this year. And taking a look at the Consolation Championship, 9th seeded Twin Rivers over 10th seeded East Prairie, 64-60. Really close game there in that consolation final. Twin Rivers hung on to that consolation final. I thought East Prairie was going to run through that East. That was kind of my dark horse team to make basically a semifinal run or so in that tournament, but they dropped one to Hayti. Probably the game of the tournament there in that first round. They were down 18, come back, got a 2-point lead, and then lost it on a 3-point shot by Maurice Farr by Hayti at the buzzer. Went into the consolation bracket, pretty much ran through that consolation till the final, till they met with Twin Rivers. Twin Rivers played probably their best game of the tournament in that consolation final, played really well, and East Prairie didn't have their best game that game. Derez Tipler, standout freshman guard, made all-tournament team, averaged 21 points a game in that tournament. Didn't have his best game there in that consolation final. He might have been a little winded by that time. He had some big games earlier on in that tournament, and they just didn't play their best game in that consolation final. But Twin Rivers probably put their best game together in that final. Twin Rivers comes away with that consolation championship. And Chance Wilkerson had a big tournament, all-tournament team nominee. Big tournament for Chance Wilkerson of Twin Rivers. And that pretty much wraps up the Bloomfield Christmas tournament. And we appreciate all of you viewing on YHC TV and also online at yhctv.com and SemoSportsZone.com. Great tradition that we bring every year right here on YHC Channel 21 and online at SemoSportsZone.com and YHCTV.com. And hopefully everyone enjoyed it. It was a great tournament, probably one of the best tournaments we've done from top to bottom. There really was no runaway favorite this year. I think that's what probably made it a great tournament this year. Pretty much had very competitive games from pretty much probably after the first day. They were pretty much all competitive at that point. Even though the last 2 games of that first day, Hayti, East Prairie, probably the game of the tournament, and there in Dexter and Twin Rivers. Pretty much from that point on, it was very competitive and an awesome tournament to bring to you this year here on YHC. So I appreciate all the viewership out there. Looking forward to another one next year. And we've actually got that highlight queued up from the final, Kennett and Dexter. So let's take a look at that final. Dexter and Kennett, as we see here, Dexter off to a good start. Gabe Jackson had a big game for the Bearcats, especially early on. Nice inbound play. Jason Jarrell gets open for the 2 here midway through the second half. We see Kennett start to pull into that lead a little bit there. Run out Gooden to Crothers on that easy 2. Gabe Jackson, nice turnaround jumper from the post. And into the end of the third quarter, nice basket there by Gabe Jackson. He really owned the paint early on. And Carlos Turner, tough basket at the start of the fourth quarter. And this is where the tide started to turn. Great ball movement by the Indians. Jad Kenny puts it in for two. And we see here a nice give and go, and then going to the baseline, Patrick Maddox knocking down the three to give Kennett the lead early on in the fourth, and they wouldn't relinquish it at this point. Full court pressure by the Indians, and Gabe Jackson looking for someone, trying to get it across half court, turnover, and up for two. And that was just a few minutes to go in the third here, where you got a 3-point lead for Kennett. Last chance effort here for Dexter to tie the game. The ball's thrown away, turned over to Kennett, and that pretty much iced the game there with a 5-point victory for the Kennett Indians. So quite a game there, all the way down to the end. Packed house there in Bloomfield for that Kennett-Dexter final, and a great final. And Kennett really turned it on at the start of the fourth quarter and pulled away with that victory there in Bloomfield. So a great tournament wrapped up with a great final. It couldn't have ended with a better game between those two teams coming down to the end, last minute, and a great game to bring to you, certainly on TV. And let's take a look at the Southeast Missourian Christmas Tournament up the way in Cape Girardeau at the Show Me Center. It wrapped up last week as well, and Cape Central, the second seed, comes away with that tournament championship over Jackson, 46-44. Cape Central with that Christmas tournament title, and Jackson number one seed, even though Jackson was coming into that tournament with kind of a target on its back. They suffered a few losses before the tournament, especially in the SEMO Conference, so there was going to be a target on their back, knowing that they could be taken out of that Christmas tournament, and Jackson did so with a 2-point low-scoring victory over Jackson in that Southeast Missouri Christmas Tournament Championship. And moving on to the third place game, it was Charleston over Notre Dame. Big SEMO Conference matchup there. Seems like they've played 3 times already this year. They've played in that. I think they played a regular season game. I can't recall if they played in that SEMO Conference tournament, but it seems like this is probably their third time. May only be their second, but certainly they played already. And Charleston won that game 63-53, come away with third place in that Southeast Missouri Christmas Tournament. And in the fifth place game, it was Advance over Scott County Central, 86-72. Advance got off to a great start this year and win that fifth place game over Scott County Central. That's the second time they beat them this year. They played earlier in the Oran Invitational Tournament final. I think Advance won by only 1 or 2 points, but a 14-point victory over Scott County in that Christmas tournament. So Advance is only getting better and looking very good in that Class 1. Might see a matchup later on again with Gideon and Advance in that sectional, but Advance off to a great start in this season so far, except for with the exception of that bump in the road with Bloomfield just a few weeks ago. But they're looking pretty good, especially in Class 1 so far this year. And taking a look at the consolation final, it was Oran, 9th-seeded Oran, defeating 14th-seeded Chaffee, 38-32. Low-scoring affair there, but Oran come away with that consolation final in that Christmas tournament. Chaffee made a nice run in that consolation side, just coming up a bit short to the Oran Eagles. And those are your Christmas tournaments from the area. Great tournaments in both there in Cape Girardeau and Bloomfield. And always great traditions here in Southeast Missouri with those Christmas tournaments, as well as the other ones leading up to that pretty much the week before. And some great basketball throughout Southeast Missouri in the last few weeks there with those Christmas tournaments. And we're going to take a quick break and be back with more coming up.
The Ford Holiday Sales Event going on now at Harry Blackwell Ford, Malden.
Check out these holiday savings on 2016 SE Escapes, as low as $20,148 on the web.
Here you can buy a 2015 Taurus SEL for $25,682.
Save nearly $11,000 on this F-350 Lariat, now only $51,846.
From all of us at Harry Blackwell Ford in Malden, Merry Christmas!
Deposit your check here or here or even there. Deposit your check wherever you are with First Midwest Bank's new mobile deposit. Just tap, snap, deposit. It's that simple. New mobile deposit from First Midwest Bank, serving the communities we call home.
The area's fastest internet just got faster. Introducing 100 meg internet, now available from New Wave. With 100 meg, there's nothing you can't do. Browse better, stream more, power every device. This is lightning fast internet designed to fit your family's needs. It's brand new and it's the fastest game in town. Get 100 meg internet from New Wave, your local provider of the speed you need. Call 1-888-8-NEW-WAVE today.
And we're back, and as I mentioned in the last segment, there's some teams that's really made their way up in high school basketball for this season. Some surprises, especially at the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. You take a look at some of these teams that have really stepped up their game in the last year. So we're just going to take a segment and talk about teams on the rise in 2016, kind of this New Year's edition of high school basketball. Teams to look out for in 2016 that we may not have seen coming into this season. And looking in that Bloomfield Christmas Tournament, teams that really stand out to me, Saxony Lutheran really stood out to me in that tournament. They got some great players there. I believe Kyle Williams there. Saxony Lutheran, a really good guard with length, stands at about 6'3", and there's a couple Williams kids actually on that team. Look really good, and they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. They play out of Class 3, and that's a team that hasn't really been in that mix in Class 3. You think of Class 3 here in southeast Missouri, New Madrid, Charleston comes to mind, also Crothersville, but Saxony Lutheran hasn't ever been in that mix, but they're going to be a team to be reckoned with this year. And excuse me, almost had one coming on. But Saxony Lutheran really looks strong, and that could be a team that could come out of Class 3 this year here in southeast Missouri. But we'll see. It's going to be some tough competition ahead for the Saxony Lutheran Crusaders. But they actually brought an undefeated record into that Christmas tournament and took one loss to Kennett in that semifinal. So they're going to look good going forward in that Class 3 here in southeast Missouri. And what's so good about them, they play that 2-3 zone, and they're really long. They start about 2 or 3 kids at 6'3", and they're hard to penetrate, hard to really get those kind of penetration and dump offs there against that zone, and they're going to be tough to deal with. Really looking good out of Saxony Lutheran heading into 2016. Also a team that really opened my eyes in that tournament is East Prairie. They had a pretty good run up to that tournament, played some competitive games, especially with New Madrid. East Prairie playing out of Class 3. That's probably the only thing that really hurts them, playing that Class 3. You got to play up there with New Madrid, Charleston, Malden, and Saxony Lutheran potentially as well. But they got some fine talent on that team. Derez Tippler, one of the best freshmen in the area. He really come out in a big way in that tournament, averaged 21 a game, and really took over that game against Hayti in the first round. I think he had 16 points in the fourth quarter and had a big tournament, all-tournament team. Also, they got some other good players on that team, too. Deverance Jones, other guard for the East Prairie Eagles. Brett Ellis, a fine player. Probably thinking some others that I'm overlooking. But they got a fine team. They're not very deep. They only play about 7 players, 8 at the most. Casey Knight's done a great job with that team and had a good tournament run and opened some eyes there, which I think they were seeded a little low in that tournament. They got seeded 10th, had a really great matchup with Hayti, but they probably played above their seed in that tournament and had a great showing. So that's a team I really look to have a good 2016 going forward. Other teams I'm looking at, Malden. I think Malden's going to start. They've had a pretty decent run up to this point, and their Christmas tournament they played good at times and just they hit these stretches where they're just not productive in a certain stretches of the game. That Dexter game, they got down early and then pretty much played even with Dexter pretty much for probably half or 2/3 of that game, but just got a bad start and just couldn't make up for that deficit later on. But you can tell they're a team trying to figure out what their identity is. They got great presence down low with Robert Eisen, big kid at 6'5". They got some good guard play. Ned Lee's coming on big for the Green Wave. He had a great tournament. Ned Lee did, and also you've got some other talent there. You got some good ball handlers. That's what I like about Malden's team. They don't out front. They've got Malcolm McBride, also Kylis Thompson. They handle the ball well. They don't turn it over, and they got some good off guards. And Ned Lee, Reggie Reed, also a nice off guard. Shamadre Barber, he can kind of go inside and out. Great presence in the transition, also on the drive to the basket. So they've got the tools to be a very good team this year. You can just tell when they're out there. It's like they haven't found the strength in their offense yet, but they can play some pretty good defense. That's a team I think will start to put things together. That, right now people probably overlooking Malden with the kind of season they've had so far, but I think as the season progresses, you'll see that team get better and better as the season goes on because they've got the tools there. It's just a matter of putting it together for the rest of the year. So there's quite a bit of season left. So come Boot Hill Conference tournament time, that could be a strong team by the end of the year. And we talked about South Pemiscot before the tournament, how they're going to be one of those better teams in Class 2. I still expect that. They're another one of those teams that have got all the tools in their lineup, play very good defense, and a very athletic team up and down. And also when you get them in the half court, that's where I think they struggle in that Bloomfield tournament. They've been able to play such a transition game so far this year that they've pretty much just overwhelmed their opponent playing transition ball. They got in that tournament, played a few teams that just slowed it down on Saxony Lutheran. They lost Saxony Lutheran in that quarterfinal. Saxony Lutheran doesn't really play an up-tempo style. They're working in the half court, controlling the ball, very efficient in their offense, and they've got great length on defense. I think that's what gave South Pem some trouble in that quarterfinal. So saw them get nipped there by Saxony Lutheran, and then that fifth place final with Bloomfield. I mean, Bloomfield is the ultimate ball control team, very efficient. They're only going to score about 40, 50 points a game. And then when South Pem's really, forced to play defense anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute and having to defend that perfect shot that Bloomfield's eventually going to get in their offense, I think that's what really slowed them down, got them out of sync, out of what they're used to doing, playing transition ball. And once they're playing defense that long and then going on offense, trying to speed things up, it's just a little out of sync for them. So I think they just ran into some opponents that were just bad matchups for them, but great preparation for them going forward to where they can, if they run into a Bloomfield later on in the year in district play or what have you, I think they're going to be a little bit more prepared for that down the line. So still a good team there in South Pem, going to be dangerous for 2016. Bloomfield, I really like Bloomfield's team. They're a different team. They don't blow up a box score. You're not going to read the paper or watch your own YHC and see the Bloomfield score and just be like, man, they are just awesome. Because they're not going to score 70, 80 points a game unless they're just certainly outclass their opponent. And they scored I think 79 in that first game with Richland, I believe. But they just trounced Richland, but they're not a team that's just going to wow you throughout the season. They're going to win. They're going to be efficient. They're going to win, these 10, 15 point, these 10, 15 point leads you're going to see in the box scores. That's what you're going to see out of Bloomfield. But it seems like when they get a 5 or an 8 point lead, it seems like it's well in hand because they don't turn the ball over. They don't give their opponents, second, third chance opportunities. They're a pretty good rebounding team. They play really good defense. That's why when they're winning games 46-42, something like that, they can hold their opponents to 40 points and do what it takes on offense to score enough and come out with victory. They got some great talent on that team. Noah Vandevers, certainly they're their go-to guy, and they've actually played well at times when I think he actually fouled out of that South Pemiscot game, if I'm not mistaken, in the last few minutes. And they played well without him. They got a good balanced team. They'll play upwards to 9 kids. They got a deep bench. That means they can rotate those guys in, play good defense. Got a good trapping defense. They don't really get after it man-to-man, but they'll play that 2-3 zone, mix it up, come out and trap, lay off, and then come out and trap. Just keeps their opponent off balance, and they're a very efficient team. They don't turn the ball over, as I said. They got some good ball handlers. They got some good three-point shooters. Nathan Newell, Tyler Battles, Peyton Bell, those guys, Hector, Tim Hector. Got 4 or 5 guys that can shoot the ball from the outside. Even Noah Vanderberg can come out there and shoot from the outside, and they got good ball handlers. Just a good, efficient team there in Bloomfield, and that's the thing. You can't get down to them. You gotta get out in front of them, play with a lead, because if you're at a 5 or 6 point deficit, it seems like it's going to be a 10-point deficit to overcome, because it's hard to get the possessions to get the lead back. What it's going to take to get that lead, you need the possessions, and there's just not going to be as many possessions in a game when you're playing a team like Bloomfield. So it's a dangerous team, just because if you get down on them, it's going to be hard to come back on them if they got a 5 to 10 point lead on you. So Bloomfield's a team I like for 2016. Other teams I like looking going forward, Gideon. I really like Gideon. They've had a good season early on. I know they're going to have a different dynamic than other teams. Kenny Buchanan, head coach of the Gideon Bulldogs, had some brain swelling, and he's going to have to take some time to recover. And there's a chance he might not be back for the season, just to recover what he's went through. So I think Jordan Ellsworth, Jimmy Brees are taking the team over at this point going forward. And Jimmy Brees has been around the coaching ranks. And Jordan Ellsworth, assistant's been around for quite some time too. So that team's going to pretty much keep it together going forward. But Gideon's got a really nice team going forward, especially in that Boot Hill Conference. I like them in that Boot Hill Conference for 2016. So, it's looking good so far for the Gideon Bulldogs. Probably the team that's probably going to have the best 2016 ahead. It's got to be the Sikeston Bulldogs. They've been so dominant this year and looking to have a great 2016. They're just head and shoulders above everyone else in Southeast Missouri and even in that SEMO Conference this year. That SEMO Conference has been, so competitive over the last few years, but I just think Sikeston's just head and shoulders above everyone else. They ran away with that SEMO Conference tournament first of the year, and I think the regular season is going to be theirs to take as well. And they're going to have a great run ahead, and an undefeated season's not out of the realm for them. I don't think they've taken a loss yet, so that might be in the works for them this year. They've just been that dominant so far this year, and I don't see anyone really getting in their way up ahead for 2016. So look for the Sikeston Bulldogs to have a great 2016 going forward. So there's some teams I like going forward for 2016. Some we may have not have seen come along, but it's been a great year of basketball. I think that's what, over the last year or two, we've seen teams that have struggled traditionally, and starting to put some teams together. Starting to see some new coaches move around and put things together, and looking good. Looking good for high school basketball in Southeast Missouri. Probably this year, with the exception of Sikeston, we don't have that runaway great team that we've seen over the last handful of years, like Scott County Central or New Madrid or Charleston. We haven't seen some of those great teams with it, like I said, the exception of Sikeston, but just more consistent play across the board from teams here in Southeast Missouri, which I think sets up for a great 2016. And we got some state rankings to mention for high school basketball for boys and girls. And this poll's probably actually 2 weeks old, before the Christmas break got underway. So let's take a look at those rankings from the past few weeks, as they'll certainly change for this next poll coming up. Missouri boys Class 1, number 1 Stanberry, number 2 Winston, 3 Advance, 4 Leeton, 5 Glasgow, 6 Walnut Grove, 7 North Andrew, 8 Mercer, 9 Wooblu, And 10-10 Hardin Central, and advanced there in the top 5 at number 3. They've taken a few losses there at the end of December, so we might see them at the bottom half of this poll, but then again, we'll see how that plays out in that next poll here in January. And in Class 2, take a look at Class 2, Hartville at number 1, 2 Scott County Central, 3 Crane, 4 Salisbury, 5 Iberia, 6 Wellington Napoleon, 7 Thayer, 8 Mid-Buchanan, 9 Ellington, and 10 Skyline. And Scott County Central very favorably in this poll at number 2. In that last poll there in mid-December, likely going to be at the bottom half or even out of that poll. I think some other Class 2 teams have playing a bit better in the area than Scott County Central. So we'll probably see the Braves out of that top 10 poll in the next one. And in the boys Class 3 poll, Father Tolton Catholic, they're at number 1, and the defending Class 3 state champion Barstow is at number 2. 3 Park Hill Central, 4 Fairgrove, 5 Conway, 6 Hogan Prep, 7 O'Hara, 8 Lafayette County, 9 Palmyra, and 10 Clever. And that's the top 10 poll for Class 3. Park Hill Central up there in that top 5 at number 3. Looking good so far up there in Park Hills. And in Class 4, Vashon at number 1, 2 Bolivar, 3 Sykeston, 4 Lafayette of St. Joseph, 5 Parkway West, 6 Jennings, 7 Miller Career Academy, 8 Rolla, 9 Soldan International Studies, and 10 Lincoln Prep. And you see there the Sykeston Bulldogs at number 3 in that last poll, and Vashon out of nowhere putting a season together. Haven't seen Vashon really in the mix for the past decade when they dominated through the early 2000s, and out there at number 1 so far this year. And nice to see them back in the mix. Very competitive team out of St. Louis so far. Sykeston is going to be knocking on that number 1 ranking by the season's end, I would imagine. They're in that Class 4 state poll. And in Class 5 at number 1, Chaminade, Jason Tatum at the helm, one of the best players in the country. They're at top at number 1, 2 Kickapoo, 3 Hazelwood Central, 4 Christian Brothers College Prep, 5 Lee Summit, 6 St. Louis University High, 7 Nixa, 8 Webster Groves, 9 Blue Springs South, and 10 Vianney, making up the Class 5 state poll in Missouri. Those are your boys' rankings there through up. I think that was the December 16th poll, I believe. So it's been a few weeks since we've had this state poll, so we'll probably have one this next week here in January. And in girls Class 1, let's take a look at Missouri girls Class 1 rankings. Jefferson on top at number 1, 2 Mercer, 3 Prairie Home, 4 Southwest, 5 Jamestown, 6 Hermitage, 7 Mound City, 8 Tuscumbia, 9 Lynn County, and 10 Norborn. Making up Class 1. Now to Class 2. Crane at number 1, 2 Hartville, 3 Gainesville, 4 Skyline, 5 Spokane, 6 North Platte, 7 northeast of Cairo, 8 Crocker, 9 Clopton, and 10 Stoutland. And moving to Class 3, Park Hill Central at number 1, 2 Stratford, 3 Chillicothe, 4 Lutheran of St. Charles, 5 Saxony Lutheran, 6 Fairgrove, 7 St. Pius, 8 St. James, 9 Houston, and 10 Cuba. And Park Hill Central, the defending Class 3 state champions. I would actually assume coming into this year that Saxony Lutheran there at number 5 would be the favorite this year. They pretty much bring everyone back. Park Hill Central lost 2 or 3 starters from last year's team, but Park Hill Central come back with a tough unit already this year. Probably I would assume that Park Hill Central and Saxony Lutheran would match up once again. They're in Class 3. And in Class 4, Incarnate Word at number 1. I think they're about the 2 or 3 time defending state champs. Back at number 1 so far this year. 2 Carl Junction, 3 Country Day, 4 St. Francis Borgia, 5 Aurora, 6 West Plains, 7 Dexter, 8 Benton, 9 Eldon, and 10 Webb City. And Dexter having a great season so far this year. I think they've only got one loss on the record, St. Joseph's Academy, I believe. That's their only loss. They've had a great run so far this year, coming off that Twin Rivers Lady Royals Christmas Classic Tournament Championship. They won 63-42 over Neelyville, and off to a great start once again this year. The Dexter Lady Bearcats in Class 4. And in Class 5, Parkway North at number 1, 2 Republic, 3 Kirkwood, 4 Kickapoo, 5 Washington, 6 Liberty, 7 Webster Groves, 8 Hickman, 9 Branson, and 10 Francis Howell. And those are your state rankings. A couple weeks old, those rankings for boys and girls for the state of Missouri. And we'll probably get a new poll here in the first week of January from the Missouri Basketball Coaches Association. So we'll look forward to that for this next week. And that's pretty much what we got for that segment. And we're going to come back and give you a little preview of college football going forward, as well as NFL football wrapping up the last season of the year. Back with that coming up.
You just can't do it anymore, but you want to stay in your own home. Bales is the place to call. Bales is committed to helping people like you to maintain your independence and live your life on your terms with dignity. Bales can help with your family getting paid for taking care of you. There is no need to live anywhere but our own home with Boot Heel Area Independent Living Services there to help. Just call 888-449-0949 or stop by 719 Tico Road in Kennett to find out more. Bales, Boot Heel Area Independent Living Services, serving Dunklin, New Madrid, Pemiscot, and Stoddard counties.
What is your emergency? Need assistance at County Road 61 and Highway 9. Help is on its way.
Clear! There's a better way to jumpstart your soil back to health. Apply Endzone to protect and increase nitrogen efficiency without killing bacteria. Apply Prevent to increase phosphorus availability and reduce fixation. Better yet, use them both to get more from your fertilizer investment and see higher potential yields. Ag Explorer, your prescription for healthy soil.
The competitive edge. It's the edge that sets you apart from your competition. Every business needs it. Now every business can get it. Partner with Advanced Business Solutions and give your business the competitive edge. Advanced Business Solutions, delivered by New Wave, offers scalable fiber optic-based internet solutions to fit your needs. Now you can download without the wait on a network designed for you. Call Advanced Business Solutions and get the competitive edge for as low as $39.99 per month.
And welcome back. First, take a look at some college football. Big weekend in college football. The New Year's Six Bowls took place all throughout yesterday. And New Year's Eve had the semifinals in college football. And your national championship is going to be Clemson and Alabama. And Clemson rolled over Oklahoma. Alabama taking care of Michigan State in a shutout. And should be a good final. I know everyone's expecting Alabama in that final going on the 11th. Trying to see what the I'm trying to see what the I can't. I haven't been able to get the trying to get the odds on that so far. Who's going to be the favorite? I'm sure Alabama's going to be the favorite in that college football playoff championship with Clemson. Clemson's been that front runner all year long. It seems like they're the Florida State of last year. They're undefeated. Pretty much been number one since Ohio State lost. And when Ohio State lost, they took over that number one ranking and have held on to it. And I know everyone's expecting Alabama. Alabama would probably be a touchdown favorite, I would assume, in that final. And we'll see what happens. I know Clemson's going to be playing that underdog, playing that up for this next week, being the underdog, even though they're the number one ranked team. But I just think that defense of Alabama is going to it's going to stifle Clemson. And the only thing going for Clemson is I think Watson, their quarterback. He's mobile. He can make plays, and that's probably what's going to take. Some of those quarterbacks have had some success against Alabama in the years past. When you think of Johnny Manziel and such, it's going to take a mobile quarterback to pick up those first downs, move those chains against that Crimson Tide defense. So we'll see what happens going forward. Should be a great game, great anticipated game between Clemson and Alabama. And, Alabama's just kind of been under the radar this year. They lost to Ole Miss, and it seems like ever since then, the media and the fans just kind of, Alabama's there in the mix too, but they haven't ever been kind of a favorite really to win ever since that Ole Miss game. But they've been playing great, and anytime you shut out anyone like a team such as Michigan State on the big stages, the semifinals, they're going to be a team to be reckoned with, and on the verge of another national championship under Nick Saban. So it's par for the course, I guess, to have Alabama right there in the mix. So we'll see what happens on January 11th, Monday, January 11th on ESPN. And big games last night. Ole Miss ran away with that over Oklahoma State in that Sugar Bowl, 48-20. In the Rose Bowl, what a game Christian McCaffrey had for Stanford. Fifth-ranked Stanford over sixth-ranked Stanford over fifth-ranked Iowa, 45-16. He broke the all-purpose yards record in the Rose Bowl, and he's going to be a big-time talent going to the next level there in the pros in the NFL. But Stanford, really good team, just had a few losses, and had a very good team there in Stanford this year, and they showed it against Iowa yesterday in that Rose Bowl. And the Fiesta Bowl, Ohio State pretty much run over Notre Dame, 44-28. And, those were pretty much the big bowls there from yesterday. So, there we go. So, looking forward to the national championship coming up on January 11th. So we'll see what happens in just over a week from today. And the NFL football season comes to an end this weekend, week 17. And some pretty big matchups. Still got some playoff spots to be determined. Taking a look at those matchups taking place this weekend. The Jets at the Bills in the AFC East. The Jets, they're 9-6 on the year. Another win will make them 10-6. Quite a year for the Jets. Had a big win last week over the New England Patriots. So looking to finish up with a win on the road and a playoff spot in the AFC this year. So it's a big deal for the New York Jets. And the Patriots at the Dolphins. The Patriots need a victory. Oh boy, the Patriots need a victory on the road in Miami to hold on to their top seed and home field advantage in the AFC. They're at 12-3 on the year. A win will make them 13-3 and the number one seed in the AFC. Going to be without Julian Edelman once again for today. They should have a couple players back, but Chandler Jones is going to be out. I think Rob Ninkovich is questionable, so big game there in Miami for this weekend. The Ravens at the Bengals. The Bengals trying to hold on to that number 3 seed. I think, they should be able to hold on to that number 3 seed there in the AFC. The Steelers at the Browns, and the Steelers on the outside looking in right now. They need a victory over the Browns and a little help to get into the playoffs this year. It's going to be a disappointing season at the Steelers, which have been one of the better teams the last half of the year. Just come up with some losses that they shouldn't lose. They lost to the Ravens last week. Ravens, I think, got 3 or 4 wins on the year. Disappointing loss for the Steelers last week. They've got to get a win against the Browns this weekend to even be in the hunt. They're going to need some help, too, because right now I think they're in the 7th spot out of 6 playoff spots. They're on the outside looking in right now. The Jaguars at the Texans, and the Texans with the victory can run away with that AFC South, which the Colts have pretty much dominated, but with Andrew Luck out for the Colts, they're pretty much out of the mix. So Texans get a victory over the Jaguars. They got that AFC South wrapped up and the 4th seed in that AFC playoff picture. The Redskins at the Cowboys. The Redskins already got everything locked up in the NFC East. They're going to the playoffs. Cowboys, tough year. I think they're 4-11 on the year. Just a tough year. Des Bryant, Tony Romo going out. Just haven't been able to recover. And just a disappointing year for the Cowboys. Buccaneers at the Panthers. Panthers took a loss last week to spoil their undefeated season, and they're at 14-1 on the year. Go to 15-1 with a win over the Buccaneers this weekend. Shouldn't have any problem with the Bucs there in Carolina this weekend. And the Raiders at the Chiefs in the AFC West. The Chiefs have really put a season together. I think they are 10-5 on the year. They can finish 11-5. They had a rough start, but put together probably for the past 10 games, they've probably been the hottest team in the league, are the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chargers at the Broncos in the AFC West. The Broncos need a victory to hang on to at least the number 2 seed. And if they win and the Patriots lose, they will be the top seed in the AFC. So the Broncos got a lot to play for this weekend. Probably the game of the week, Seahawks at the Cardinals. Big NFC West matchup there. Cardinals have already clinched the NFC West, but they've got a chance to. I think they've got a chance to get home field advantage if the Panthers would take a loss to the Buccaneers. But they've probably got the number 2 seed all locked up. If they can get that victory over the Seahawks, they're at 13-2 on the year. A win makes them 14-2. And Carson Palmer right there in the MVP discussion. He's my MVP of the year. He's played the best at the quarterback position this year, undoubtedly. And Cam Newton's there in the mix too, especially with the season they've had. But Carson Palmer certainly played the best at the quarterback position this year. And the Seahawks are coming on. They had a loss last week to the Rams, and I know, the Rams play the perfect spoiler. They are the perfect spoiler team. At NFC West, tough division. Cardinals looking to be the best team in that division. The Seahawks, you can't count the Seahawks going forward. They're playing a lot better offensively. Russell Wilson really putting together a great second half of the year. He's probably been the best quarterback in the second half of the season with the games he's had. So got to look out for those Seahawks. 2-time defending NFC champions. Can't count them out. They're going to be there in the mix. They're in the NFC. And Sunday Night Football, the Vikings at the Packers for the NFC North crown. I think this will determine the NFC North championship, I believe. I think both teams at 10-5 on the year. I think this one will determine the NFC North champion for Sunday Night Football. So big-time matchup there. The Packers struggled all year long. Seems like Jordy Nelson being out, it's really put that team in a flux offensively. The Vikings playing pretty good football for this season. They got a strong team offensively, defensively. Should be a good game there in Green Bay for Sunday Night Football on NBC. So there's your NFL football games to look forward to this weekend, and looking forward to the playoffs. I'm a big NFL guy. Looking forward to these playoffs, seeing what happens. And also you got your college football national championship coming up on the Monday the 11th. So football's starting to come to an end now, and it's about all basketball from here on out here for the rest of the way in 2016. So we'll see what happens for the next few weeks, and we'll look forward to seeing you right back here with us on the Roundtable every Saturday morning, live at 10 a.m. right here on YHC TV, as well as SeamoreSportsZone.com and YHCTV.com. And we'll look forward to seeing you at our next one. Until then, I'm Tyler Weichner. Take care, everyone.